Oh, it was definitely that experience in that class and treatment, with the religion and spirituality, just not having a clue that there was a difference between, going to church and the things that you're taught in vacation Bible school, all that kind of stuff growing up, and spirituality. Spirituality is that actual connection, like you and God, or you and your higher power talking together. That, like, your moment with him, not what somebody else says that you're supposed to be doing or behaving how you're supposed to be acting. And so that moment and sitting in that chair in treatment center, I'm telling you.
That was Carrie Burgess, and this is the SHAIR Podcast.
It's time for the SHAIR Recovery Podcast, where we bring you amazing life-changing success stories from addicts and alcoholics all over the world who share their inspiring journey in recovery. And now, here's your host, O.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the SHAIR Podcast. And before we dive into Carrie's story, I am very excited to announce that I will finally be launching my new membership site for personal development and coaching called SHAIRspace. So we have the SHAIR Podcast, which will always be for free. We have the SHAIR Recovery Network on Facebook, the private group that will always be for free. And now I will be launching SHAIRspace, the Empowerment Network, which again is a personal development and coaching membership site. And for this group, SHAIR is still spelled SHAIR, but stands for success, happiness, authenticity, intuition, and resilience. And I will be launching a video very soon inviting those of you who want to join me on this. This will be a paid membership site. And if you want individual coaching, I will be offering that as well as a mastermind group. What this group embodies and what this membership community will embody is 15 years of life experience, coaching, mentorship, personal development that I have experienced. There are 5 primary areas in people's lives where we struggle: career and finance, relationships, health and wellness, family, and spirituality, which all fall under the umbrella of personal development. So each week, you will be able to get on a live video call with me using the Zoom software where we can all see each other and focus on one of these topics each week. This will also include a private Facebook group, a secret private Facebook group for members only, where we will post all the recorded videos in case you missed one of the calls or you want to go back because you wanted to take notes. And the only people that will be able to see the call, be on the call, or replay the call are the members. So you don't have to worry, this is not a Facebook Live. This is a private online meeting, but where everyone can see each other and everyone can participate. So very soon here, I'll be looking for 50 people who want to participate and join the membership community. I want to cap it at 50 people to start in order to manage it as efficiently as possible and to work out all the dates and times necessary. We've got people from the UK, we've got people from Australia, we've got people from the US, we've got people from all over the world and in different time zones. So it's important that I take that into consideration so that we can adjust the times accordingly. So if you're listening to this right now and you're like, oh my God, I totally want to get in on this, then send me an email at omar@omarpinto.com. That's omar@omarpinto.com. And just write, hey, please tell me more about SHAIRspace, because this sounds like it could be the right fit for me. And in other SHAIR Podcast news, the SHAIR Podcast is now on Spotify. I know that there's a lot of you that listen to it, and I've been trying to get on there for a while now, and we're finally on there. So go to Spotify, type in SHAIR in the search bar, and then click on follow to the SHAIR Podcast on Spotify. And for this holiday season, I'd like to do the give back. And there's one person that has been the most supportive for me in 2017 when it comes to the SHAIR Podcast, and that is Mr. Christopher Lee Falk. He's the one who made it possible for me to get out to Minnesota and become a recovery coach. So as we approach the holiday season right now, and you'd like to give someone a gift that embodies recovery, then I would encourage you to go to www.allrecoveryrings.com. When Christopher got clean and sober, he went all in on recovery. He is also a peer recovery specialist, and for years now he has been turning recovery medallions into rings that you can wear. I have 3 of those beautiful rings myself, so if you're looking for a gift to give to yourself or others, then please take a moment to go to www.allrecoveryrings.com and order your All Recovery Ring today. And now it's time to read one of our SHAIR podcast reviews. And the title of this week's review is Invaluable. And here's the review. I've been listening to an episode every day and dreading the soon approaching day when I will catch up and have to wait a whole week for the latest episode. Great podcast. Thank you, Omar and team. Man, I do know the feeling. I can't tell you how many times I've binged watched a series, and then as I get closer to the end, been dreading the day that I'm going to have to wait a week in between to watch an episode. So I know the feeling, and thank you for the kick-ass review. The SHAIR team and myself appreciate the love. HP, baby. Okay, folks, so today we have Carrie Burgess joining us on the SHAIR podcast. And Kari is a longtime listener, longtime follower, and active participant in the SHAIR Recovery Network on Facebook. And it has taken us over a year to put this interview together. And I'm so glad that we did. Kari is an absolute sweetheart, and she tells her story in such a beautiful way. And it comes from a place of absolute love and an unwavering commitment to recovery. Thank you for opening yourself up to vulnerability and sharing your truth with us. Folks, you do not want to miss this episode. So let's dive into Kari's story. But first, a quick message from Transitions Daily and then on to the show. Would you like to join a free, anonymous online group that offers a daily topic email with popular recovery resources accompanied by a secret Facebook group for discussion? Then go to dailyaaemails.com for more information about Transitions Daily. And don't forget to share dailyaaemails.com with friends, in meetings, and with sponsees in recovery. Hey, Kari, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. I am so excited to finally have you on the show. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very good. I was a little nervous, but now that I've actually hear you, I feel like I'm sitting here talking to a close friend. Yeah,
well, we have known each other for about 3 years.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
You know, what's funny is when I'm thinking about it right now, SHAIR hasn't been around SHAIR is now, we're 2.5. So it hasn't even been 3 years yet, but it feels like it because I was just doing the math. I launched SHAIR in 2015, February of 2015. This February, we celebrated 2 years. So that means now we're like at 2.5 years with 150 episodes plus, right? And you're one of the one of the initial listeners, one of the first people in the Facebook groups, right? You know, the first people under 1,000 to come into the private Facebook group.
That's right. Like I told 900 and something, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I was like, found it. I don't even know how I found it. I found you through the podcast, I think it was. And then you had the Facebook page. And so I found you guys on there and I love it.
It has just taken a life of its own. It's, you know, when I say HP baby, that is definitely one of those things of all the many things in my life where I can say HP baby about that SHAIR group has just, it's taken a life of its own and it belongs to all of us. That's the best part, right? I don't even need to be in there. And it just helps thousands of people, you know, by everybody that's in there, you know. So I want to thank you, first of all, for being such a constant fan and contributor and member and, you know, all that good stuff and listener, right? Like it's just been awesome because you know you're one of the ones that has been steady on posting and being encouraging, and you know we need that. So thank you.
No, thank you. Oh, it's a great group, and it's so positive, and I think that there's so many groups out there, and sometimes when you're on Facebook, it'll pop up with other groups that you should, you know, like suggestions or whatever, and I've tried them, and I love, like you said, it's our group. I love our group.
Oh man, I love it. All right. So let's dive right in, Kari. Okay, so folks, just in case you didn't know, today we have Carrie Burgess joining us on the show. For those of you listening that are part of the Facebook group, you will know that name. Very active member in our group that helps all of the admins, who helps welcome all the newcomers You know who she is. And today, Kari is going to tell her story. But first, Kari, tell us a little bit about what your normal daily routine looks like, including recovery.
All right. Well, I am a mother of a 7-year-old. So my normal daily routine is getting up, getting my coffee, packing lunch, and then right now fighting my 7-year-old to get him to school. So my day starts off in a tornado. I mean, it feels like a tornado. And so I have to stop and I do a daily meditation, little prayer, and then get him to school. And then I'm off to the races literally as soon as I get up. I actually work at the Harley-Davidson store.
Oh, I've seen that. Yes.
Yes,
I love it.
It's awesome. Yes, it's so cool. And I go into work and I'm like one of those people that once I'm there, I do not stop. I don't sit down except for lunch, and I am constantly going. Leave there, and then luckily I have a 45-minute drive to work, so I get to listen to the podcast in the morning and on my way home from work, which I love. I like to stay in recovery in that moment because in my car I can start having, crazy thoughts. So I'm either listening to a podcast on recovery or some spiritual music. Then after work, pretty much the same thing. I try to call my sponsor, and then I usually try to make a meeting at least 3 to 4 times a week. It's my medicine. I mean, I go home once I get to my meeting. It's like I'm in my safe zone. I can release from the day and then head home to be mom again and wife and that homework, all that great stuff until it's time to go to bed. So I'm like on the go.
I love it. Tell us a little bit about your spiritual condition. I'm big about HP, baby. So I like to know what people's practices are. How do you maintain that conscious contact with your higher power?
I try to stay in that as much as possible. Like I said, I get up and I go, and I have to really make myself stop and take a moment and ask my higher power to let me walk with him. I heard that actually, I think on one of your podcasts. I think it was like the Happy Monk. And he talked about asking God to let me walk with you, not you be with me. And that helped me a lot to with that spiritual connection, because let me be with you. And I always ask every day, God, let me do something for somebody else. Because with my recovery, when I'm helping somebody else, I'm out of myself. So that's what I do. And I do it throughout the day. I mean, dealing with customers in retail, I get frustrated, and I actually will just take a moment, step aside, and just ask him to be with me. And I say the serenity prayer a lot. And then before I go to bed at night, I thank him for my day and pray for anybody that needs it. And like I said, I want to be a servant to him as far as helping others. Pretty much that's it. I would love to say I do yoga, and I would love to say I meditate, but I really don't have time. I did a holy yoga class that one of my friends has, and it was absolutely amazing, but fitting it into my daily routine is it just doesn't happen. It actually starts to stress me out. So I wish maybe one day I'll get there, but right now it doesn't happen.
Everyone has a unique way of connecting with their higher power, but there's nothing more powerful than service work and asking God to guide you and show you where you're needed. There's nothing more powerful than that. You get up every morning, you ask, you turn my will and my life over to the care of God. Where can I be of service? Put me in a place where I can help others, right? Removing ourselves from self is the most amazing way to start your day. You're looking forward to, it's even my wife, right? It's been so long since my wife said, I think you need a meeting, right? Like it's been a while since my wife has said, you need a meeting. And then I was like, God, it's weird. It's been a while since you said that to me. She goes, yeah, because you're not in the gambling business anymore. You work at a rehab center. You're in recovery all the time, right?
Right.
And it's like, when do you have time, to be thinking about yourself? And I was like, that's interesting.
I know. Sometimes it takes the ones closest to us to see what's going on with us,
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So tell us how much clean time you have and when is your anniversary date?
I have 5 years and my anniversary date is October the 9th, 2012.
Oh, that's right. We just celebrated that on the Facebook private group.
Yes.
That is
the big 5.
Yes, that is actually. So tell me, did you hear this?
Yes, I did. It was awesome. It kind of freaked me out at first, but no, I did. I got it.
I tell you, and it's true. At least for me, it was when I think about when I celebrated 5 years, and just that unexplainable epiphany of reaching that milestone and going, wow, something just feels so dramatically different in my life, right? It wasn't like I've got this, right? It wasn't definitely I've got this, but it was like this just feels so different. It just feels so different, and it feels so right. And I'm diving head in. I'm diving all the way in, right? Like I'm so grateful for this.
And it went so fast. It was like, wow. I'm like, I've been sober for 5 freaking years. Are you kidding me? It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yes, it does. It certainly sounds like that right now. But when you're in year 1, it sure does feel like it's taken forever.
True. That's very true. Very true. Get through that first year.
That first year is so brutal. All right. So tell us quickly, all right, before we dive into your story, how old you were the first time you drank or used drugs, and more importantly, how did they make you feel?
I was at a friend's house, like 6th grade, and we were looking for her parents' stash, I guess you would say, of alcohol, and found it. And we, I don't even know what it was, and we just kind of mixed it all together and drank it, and it was
disgusting.
I don't know. I'm sorry?
Disgusting.
Yeah, it was disgusting, but I just remember feeling like, like I had arrived, like as far as like being an adult, like I felt like,
Yes.
But to be honest, that first thing was actually I got high at a college party. I hit a bong hit for the first time, like ever smoking, ever doing anything. And literally now that took my breath away. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I got to have more of this. Yeah. Alcohol was like, whatever. But no. Oh, I love me some bong hits. I'm being honest.
You are all warmed up, Kari. It's time for me to turn this show over to you. It's time for you to share your story, the battle against drugs and alcohol, the wreckage it caused in your life when you hit rock bottom, and then finally your journey into recovery up until today. So, Kari, please take it away.
Okay. So like I said, I had tried out some alcohol when I was in 6th grade, and it was okay. I grew up as the oldest of 3 girls, and just an average family. My dad worked for the telephone company. My mom was a school teacher, and we kind of had that little house on the prairie type, childhood. And especially being in recovery for a while, you kind of reflect back on your childhood. And as a child, alcohol was in our house, but it was mainly for social events. It was like, the neighbors got together and played cards. And I was like the bartender or the waitress, I remember being like 12 and fixing the drinks for the adults, and just thought that was all cool. But And then, my dad having, he would have Super Bowl parties, and I would serve the beer, take the beer out and stuff like that. But as far as my parents, it was, like I said, it was just it was social. And I started dancing when I was a little girl. I was like 3 years old. I started taking dance and ballet, tap, and jazz. And to be honest, reflecting back, that was my drug. All the way through high school. I was the oldest, so I always thought I had to be perfect. My sisters used to joke around and be like, "Oh, little Miss Perfect, you never do anything wrong." But I think it was because I was a people pleaser then. I wanted to be the good girl, and I would go to dance, and I was literally at the dance studio all the time. So I wasn't around other kids doing things outside of, school and that. And then when I turned, I would say 20, the lady that I taught dance for asked me if I wanted to help her run the studio. And I was like, I was going to go to college and stuff. And I was like, she was going to pay me really, really well. So I was like, I'm just going to do this. So I started working and teaching dance. And I would say that is when my drinking started not progressing, but it just started. That was when it was on. We would go to New York, all over, and take dance classes, watch shows. And part of that was, drinking. I mean, we'd literally get on the plane and drink screwdrivers and drink all day. And I never paid attention to the fact that, I never got sick or anything. I just thought, I was like, good God, I can hang, So, and I remember being in New York one time, and we had been drinking all day. And we met these guys. They were police officers from Chicago. And it was the first game of the World Series with the Mets and the Yankees. What was that one called?
Man,
it had a name, but anyway.
Asking me that question, I'm so I don't even watch baseball.
It was like the Subway Series or whatever, and so it was like a big to do. And these guys had tickets, so they wanted to take us to the game, and I just wanted to show my father that I had a ticket. I was in Yankee Stadium. This is awesome. And I left in the middle of the game because I was so drunk. And I remember walking out and the police officer looking at me and saying, "Ma'am, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm going back to the room." And he was like, "Do you realize where you are?" Because it was in a really rough area. And I didn't even care. I got in the taxi. The taxi cab driver gave me hell all the way back. "Young lady, what are you doing? You're in New York." And that was one of those times where I just, drinking, I didn't care. It just there was no, like I said, looking back on it, it was like, what in the world was I thinking? So anyway, drinking was just part of what we did. You hear people talk about, school teachers, they drink, we drink because, or people that work with children, we drink because we work with kids. I mean, if you worked with kids, you would drink too. Seriously. Have you ever tried it?
No.
A classroom with a lot of kids. Oh my God. I love it. It was great. It was fulfilling, but Lord God, you needed to drink afterwards. So that's what we did. And, we did that for a while, and I met a guy, and we started going out, and he actually was a drug dealer, and he sold pot. So, I remember sitting there and remembering back on that time. That was a little ways back when I had done that bong hit, and I told him, I was like, I don't know if I could do this. Like I said, I'm Miss Goody Two Shoes. I'm up on this pedestal. All these dance parents are look up to me, their kids. And I'm like, I just don't think I can do that. And he was like, it'll relax you. So, of course, I tried it again, and I was like, oh, my God, this is so freaking amazing. Because I was dancing, like, all day long, going, as you can tell, I'm a little hyper, like all over the place, and it chilled me. And, of course, I didn't know then that I had a problem, that I had a disease or anything. And so he, being a drug dealer, that worked out really good for me because, it was available all the time. So never thinking I had a problem, here I am teaching dance class and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go take my break. And I run to my apartment, which luckily was like right across the street, and get high and come back and teach dance. Who does that? That's,
I'm
the
sure
parents.
There's plenty.
Oh, I know there is now, but in my mind, who does that?
Right.
And so, that got really bad. I mean, I was very addicted to marijuana, like bad. And so, that relationship ended. And I met my husband. And when I met my husband, I still was smoking. I remember and I've heard people talk about this before, but I do want to share this. Like literally on our wedding day, I was drinking, and then one of my friends was like, "Here, I got you a gift, a wedding gift," and it was a joint. And I was like, "Heck yeah!" So on our honeymoon, I am in the bathroom, getting high because my husband doesn't get high; he drinks. He's a normie, but and coming out there, and literally on our honeymoon night, I was out. I was out of it. Like,
Baked.
So, it never happened, if you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Never.
So you don't even. Oh, wow. So you just, you knocked out.
Yes, I was done because I had been, yeah, exactly. It was like, so anyway, so I'm kind of hiding it from him. And, finally he found it, and he told me, he was like, you can't do this. This is not acceptable. So I didn't think I could stop, but I did. But that's when the drinking came on, because I'm one of those. I had put on our Facebook page, I was a cross dresser, meaning that I go from one thing to another. It doesn't, anything that's going to make me feel different, I'm going to take it. And so I stop smoking marijuana and I start drinking. And that's when my drinking really took off. I mean, like I went from beer to wine, to Jaeger, to just name it. And, we had been married for a couple of years, and I, had tried to get pregnant, and, I couldn't, but I had a miscarriage. And being, an alcoholic, I'm, like poor, pitiful me. So therefore I drank more. I just, I didn't stop. So then we kept trying, and it didn't happen. And then one day at 39 years old, I woke up and found out I was pregnant. And I was 39, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be like the oldest mom in kindergarten. They're going to think I'm his grandmother and all that. But, my mom said, it's going to happen when God wants it to happen. And so, my little boy Levi was born, and, I know it was my higher power, but when I was pregnant with Levi, I didn't drink. I tried to drink a beer one time, I think, and it actually didn't make me feel good. So I didn't drink while I was pregnant with him, but I had a toothache, and they gave me hydrocodone, and they said that it was okay to take it if you were pregnant. And then some people said, no, it's not. But, being the alcoholic drug addict I am, I'm going to go with the person that says it's okay, right?
Of course.
Yeah, if two people say it's okay and two people say it's not, then I'm just going to say it's okay. And so I did that a little bit while I was pregnant with him. But luckily, everything turned out great. I did have a C-section. So when you have a C-section, they give you some really good drugs. Yeah, really good drugs. And that's when the pills took on. I took the pills to help with the pain, but then I realized it made me like, super mom. And so now I've got, I'm drinking, I'm doing pills, and I have Levi. And the whole time I have him, I'm trying to figure out now how I'm going to get more pills, because after so long, the doctors, kind of figure it out, they stop. So I realized that my mother-in-law, who lives back behind me, has a lot of different stuff. She has a lot of different, things that are wrong that she has to take medicine for. So I remember walking down to her house with my little boy on my hip, breaking into her house. Not breaking in, I had a key, but still, I wasn't invited. I walk in and I go to her medicine cabinet, and I remember standing there holding Levi, looking in that mirror and having that medicine sitting there and going, what are you doing? And I just remember thinking that to myself, but being that addict, it didn't matter. I still took the medicine. And how crazy is it? You'll take all 6 pills and leave 3 and think they're not going to notice. You're not, stupid. Anyway, I did that with my parents. I stole, pain pills from them, all this stuff that, I never thought that I would do. I was just, and as far as worrying about getting caught or anything like that, I just didn't care. I just didn't care. I was in the addiction. So, after I had Levi, I think he was about a year old. One of the girls at work, like I said, I work at the Harley store, and one of the girls at work walked by, and I smelled marijuana, and I was like, damn, that smells really good. I was like, I haven't had that in forever. So she was like, I was like, do you think you could hook me up with some of that? And she said, yeah. So then now I'm drinking, I'm smoking pot again, and I'm taking pain pills. But that still wasn't enough. I started having some health issues, and, nobody put together that it was because of what all I was doing. Everybody thought I drank a lot, but that's all that they knew about. And so I was starting to have problems, and I did have a kidney stone. And one time I actually really did have one, and they gave me pain pills for that. And I would actually fake having a kidney stone so that I could get pain medicine, like at least 3 or 4 times. I had it to a T. I would go into the hospital and I would be, I'm dying, I'm having, a kidney stone. So I was such a con artist, anything to get what I needed. So I'm going to say probably Levi was actually about a year and a half. It was in July. And I had actually started, and I don't know if you've ever heard of this or know anything about this, but you probably do. But there is the synthetic marijuana that you can get at a convenience store, where they sell bongs.
I forget the name of it, but it's...
Oh, the one I took was called Mad Hatter. I remember writing a letter in treatment. I wrote a letter to Mad Hatter because I hated it so much, because it destroyed me. It really did. It actually helped me to hit my bottom faster. I would literally smoke that in my car, and I would sit there and go, am I going to work? Am I at lunch? Couldn't remember what I was doing.
It was powerful.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really, really bad. And I'm going to be honest, it wasn't even a good high. It was but it was very addictive and easy to get. I could just go into the convenience store, get it and smoke it.
That shit blows my mind.
I'm sorry?
That shit blows my mind. Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah. God. Anyway.
It's bad. And I literally, so now I'm drinking, I'm taking pain pills, I'm smoking pot, and then I'm doing that as well. And so needless to say, I'm a zombie. I'm a walking zombie. So in July of 2012, I Went to work. I wasn't feeling good. My eyesight was weird, and my manager took me to the emergency room. They gave me Benadryl, which I was pissed because I wanted something better, but they gave me Benadryl. And I laid there all day. They did an MRI. They sent me home, told me to follow up with my doctor. Well, the next day I got worse. I was at home. I was laying in my bed, literally peeing all over myself, but not knowing that I had to pee. Then I got up, went to get something in the kitchen, and I had a spoon in my hand and it just kind of fell out. Okay, I have no clue what's going on with me, but all I care about is getting high. This is terrible, but this is what I did. I was sitting there. My whole left side is totally gone, right? I am propping up my bowl with my stuff in it and with one hand smoking, and that's all I'm worried about is just getting that high and going to sleep. I could care less that nothing is happening on the left side of my body.
Oh, my God.
So my husband comes home and he's like, we got to do something's wrong. So we go to the hospital. I go in. The neurologist walks in and she's like, young lady, you just had 6 mini strokes and you're lucky to be alive.
Oh, my God.
I know. I was like, what? And she was like, yes. And so, of course, I didn't tell. I don't even think they asked me if I was taking any, drugs. Today, I think it might have been the synthetic, but what it was is I had a tear in my carotid artery and the blood couldn't get through in my neck. And they said it was very rare. And the few people that my one patient that my neurologist was treating, she was totally, her left side of her body, like she was totally paralyzed. Like she couldn't do anything, couldn't talk, nothing. So that was one of those miracles that you don't see until you get sober. And I had a little bit of treatment after that, like as far as physical therapy. I was fine. They sent me home. I can't remember why, but I told them I needed pain pills. They gave them to me. This went on for probably another 2 months, and I was, like I said, I was a zombie. I was literally, I had nothing. There was nothing left inside of me. I was just nothing. My husband had been threatening to leave me. But I've learned that he was a big enabler because he just couldn't do it. And I just frankly don't know if he didn't know what to do.
Right.
So I go into work one day. Now don't laugh at this, but I put on these like blue shades and told everybody that my eyes were bothering me, but it was really because I was so freaking high. I didn't want anybody to know. So, I mean, there was signs, like the people that I was close to that I worked with and my sisters, they knew something was up. So we're getting out of work and I go to leave and my manager is walking out with me and this car pulls up and it's my sisters. And they're like, get in the car. We're going to take you somewhere. And I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to dinner, whatever. And we get in the car and they're like, you have a problem. And I'm like, what are you, trying to deny it. They talked to me for a little bit, but I think what really hit with me was them telling me that my parents no longer wanted me to have a key to their house. They didn't trust me. And that if I didn't get help, that they were done and I was going to lose my job. So I didn't even have to, it was one of those God things. I really didn't even have to think twice about it. I think I was ready because I was just such a empty shell of nothing that I, agreed to go to treatment and, went home that night. And actually when I left there, I got in my car, they left me and I smoked all kinds of stuff and drank because I figured this is my last hoo-ha. And I ended up like in the next day over lost because that stuff, I was just so out of it. But I got home, they picked me up the next morning and went to treatment. And I know now that you're working at a treatment facility. For me, when I first got there, I thought it was going to be like American Horror Story, like the psychiatric ward, like with people, you know how it is on those shows, like scary.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to picture one of the psychiatric wars, kind of like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest kind of a thing.
Yes. American Horror Story has one of the episodes has that where they're like, but they're in a psych, and it's like, that's what I picture that I'm going into. And so I'm like freaking out. I walked through the doors into treatment, and it was totally not what I thought. I wasn't even there. The first 24 hours I was there, they're taking a girl out. She's having seizures. I didn't know that you could die from, detoxing from alcohol. I had no idea. And I kind of, was a little nervous at first, but to be honest, it was almost like I was like in college or something, because I met these people and they started talking. And when they started talking, they had the same thing. I mean, I have a lady that's a lawyer, with kids, and she's an alcoholic, and another lady, and they're in their 40s, just like me. And I'm like, so that was a relief, like to find out that
Yes.
I was not the only one. You know what I mean? I wasn't the only person that had this problem, or this disease that I found out. I mean, I learned that it was a disease. I think one of the coolest things, in treatment was, one of the guys, the teachers had this board, and he had a chalkboard, and he had religion and all this stuff written down. And then he had spirituality, and he separated the two. And I grew up in church, and, God's always been in my life, but I never understood that there was a difference. Religion is different than spirituality. And when he explained that, I'm telling you, I had my heart and my chest was on fire. Like at that time, I felt him. My
HP,
higher power,
baby.
he was there. I'm telling you, it was crazy. I was like, and that was that spiritual awakening that people talk about. That was it. And I decided that I was gonna give it a go. And let me just tell you that when I went into treatment, Levi was getting ready to turn 2 3 days after I went into treatment. And I thought I was going to be like the worst mom in the whole world. I'm going to treatment, and my son's having a birthday party. I mean, what a terrible, mom I am. And found out that when I got there, that it was the best gift that I could ever given him.
Yeah.
One of the counselors told me, he was like, a guy just left here. He came in to get sober for his child, and he just overdosed. You have to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. So left treatment. They took us to meetings, and there was this lady in the meeting that the treatment center took us to, and she scared me. You know what I mean? She was kind of like, I don't know. She just scared me. And for some reason, my higher power was like, that's her. That's going to be your sponsor. So I went over and I asked her, and she said, well, you're going to have to do this, 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 and this. And I'm like, I'll do it. I'll do whatever. And, came home from treatment and started immediately going to meetings. One of my first meetings I went into was a smoking meeting in this house, like in the ghetto. And I walk in, and there's like 5 old men in there. Now, I'm not talking like old, like in their 50s. I'm talking like old. And they're smoking.
Like 80?
Huh?
What, like,
yes.
oh,
yes.
God.
Yeah, like 80. Yes. And I'm like, I feel like I'm sitting there with my grandfathers. You know what I mean? Like me and the Yaya brothers instead of the Yaya sisters. And they're smoking, and I'm like, what in the fuck has my life turned into? I am sitting here on a Sunday morning with what am I doing? And I'm going to tell you, it was the best meeting ever. Those men took me, and they shared with me their story, and oh my gosh, it was amazing. Like when I left there, I just had that, I was like stoked. I was pumped. And that's how I feel when I go to meetings. I mean, I leave there, I come in like, and then I leave there and I'm like, okay, I can take on the world.
Yep.
So I got my sponsor, and I started working the program. And I think that for me, I go to AA, and I feel like I actually, at the meeting I go to at my home group, I love that we can say that we're an alcoholic and an addict. I know a lot of the AA meetings, out of respect, you say that you're an alcoholic. But in our area, there's not a NA meeting for a ways away. And so our group, there's a lot of cross-dressers, as you say. There's a lot of people that were sober for 10 years and then got hooked on the pills, or vice versa.
Right.
They think that, they're not drinking. They've been sober for 10 years. So now, they can do this, which it doesn't work. And that's one thing I love. I get to hear those stories and how it doesn't, it doesn't work. They come in and we have like a beginners meeting, and there's a lot of addicts, a lot of addicts in there. And we just want them to know that we just want to help them. And, it works out really, it's just really cool. It's great. I love my home group. Oh my gosh, I love them. They're my people. So I can keep working the program. I went through the steps. Fifth step was pretty awesome. That was just like a big release of just shit. One thing that I learned when I did the fifth step with my sponsor was that I had to forgive myself. And I didn't put myself on my fourth step.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And realized that if I don't forgive myself, then I can't, how do I expect anybody else to forgive me? But I had to learn to love myself. And I didn't. When I went into treatment, I didn't like who I was, who I had become. I remember one time, I was supposed to do a birthday party for a little girl, and she, all the little girls are there at the dance studio waiting, they call me Miss Carrie, waiting for Miss Carrie to get there. And I got drunk and passed out, and I didn't make it. So they all just got left out there. And that broke my heart. That broke my heart, because that's not me. I love kids, and I would never do anything to hurt a child. But when I was drinking and using, all I cared about is drinking and using. I didn't care about anything else. Nothing else mattered. It was just, that was my God. That was my higher power. I'm just glad today that I don't have to drink and use. And coming into, being 5 years sober, everything changes. It's like you go through different phases. And in the beginning, my husband, he went to my first AA meeting with me. And he got, when I got my first month chip, he went, and I actually gave him my first month chip, and he still has it in his pocket. Every day he has that in his pocket. It's pretty amazing. But at first he didn't want me to go, because he was like, oh, you're just going to go and there's going to be men, blah, blah, blah. And then after he started seeing the change, in me, now it's like you said, he's like, honey, I think you need to go to a meeting. Or when's the last time you went to a meeting? And I'm like, well, I just went 2 days ago. Well, I think you might want to go again tonight, So that's pretty really cool, especially since in the beginning, he told my therapist at treatment that wasn't going to work. We had a child, you know what I mean? And so you change, and the people around you change. It's crazy. It's good change. It's crazy. And then our relationship has changed, because I think for the first year it was like he was walking on eggshells, and he didn't know what to say to me, because he was afraid it was going to, make me go out and drink and use again. And then second year was good, but now that the past year, it's been a little rough. And I think it's because when we get sober, we change so much.
Yes.
You hear people say you're a new person. I mean,
yes.
You really, 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 really are a new person. And so that girl that he married, that was active drinking and using for the first, 7 years of our marriage, is a totally different person now.
Yeah.
So we're going through that. luckily he won't listen to this because I don't really think he needs to hear my story. Maybe sometime in our life, but right now, no. But I think that for him, he doesn't realize it, but he's working a program too, because stuff I do or stuff, I say, like I'll tell him, if you're getting ready to say something not nice, why don't you just stop and think about it for a minute? Little stuff like that. Now, if I told him I was using the program on him, then it would probably backfire. But
there's no need for that.
Just us and everybody else out there right now.
Yes.
But he just doesn't. He doesn't understand. And my sisters, they don't understand. They heard me speak and they were like, "I really don't get this, but just keep doing whatever you're doing,
right?
Because it's working." They don't understand. Now, I will tell you one really cool thing in sobriety is that after I came back to work, which my work was awesome. They got me, in treatment. They made sure I was taken care of, and I came back, and my general manager was like, we did it for you, but we really did it for ourselves because you're a really good worker and your customers love you, and we really we needed you, But they really did help me a lot, and I'm in there and I'm working, and one of the mechanics in the back come up, and he goes, this is like probably 4 months sober. He goes, "I know what you're doing." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, he reaches in his pocket and he pulls out a 15-year medallion.
Ooh.
And I looked at him and I was like, "You're in AA?" And he was like, "Yes." And I was like, all these years I've been working with him, I didn't know. So he became like my little AA buddy. Like, we would go if I was something was going on, I could talk to him. So that was one of those higher power things.
Yes.
In my job, I'm really honest and open with people about my recovery. And I think it's because, like I said, I want to help other people. And I feel like that if I hide it from people, that I can't help anybody. So, for instance, I have customers that know I'm in recovery because they're friends with me on Facebook, and they know that I'm in recovery from Facebook because I don't mind sharing my medallions and stuff like that. And they will they've come to me and said, my son's a drug addict and I don't know what to do. And if I didn't share that with other people, then they wouldn't know. You know what I mean? They wouldn't come to me.
Of course.
So I'm really big on not hiding it. And, you help people say the lingo, you'll help say something like, one day at a time. And then you start talking and you find out you're in the program. And it's really cool. You get that instant connection. And then just recently, we hired a girl in our department, and she came in, and she is a nut. She's my best friend now, but she came in and she started saying something. And as soon as she said it, I was like, "You're in recovery, aren't you?" And she was like, "Yep, 24 years, baby." I'm like, "Oh, hell yes." God, he's got people all around me. He knows I'm terrible. He's got to keep people around me at all times. So it is awesome. So, like you're working with somebody that's in recovery, you're like, you need to like step back. You're going to get a resentment, or we joke around, but truly we're there for each other. So that has been just amazing. So anyway, like I said, things changed. My recovery's changed, but it's good. And I recently went, I had changed sponsors, only because I was changing, where I was going to meetings. And I feel like my sponsor needs to see me, like in person. And so I changed. But just recently I went back to my old sponsor because, like I said, woman kicks my ass. And I felt like I was taking advantage of my sponsor that I had, because I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I think I'm going to start the steps over," but I wouldn't do anything. So now I recently changed to, back to my old sponsor. And, I was like, I want to start back with step one. She goes, "Okay, well, I need to have it on Friday." And I'm like, "Oh shit, I forgot." She's tough, but that's what I need.
Yes.
I need that ass whooping, because if not, I will just sit, and then I'll get miserable. I will just get miserable. Terrible, terrible. All right. I'm rambling on.
Carrie, oh man, Carrie, I thank you so much. What is it they say? The save the best for last, or the things that are most important. You wait for.
Right.
We were supposed to do this interview last year, and you chickened out.
I know, I did.
And I remember it was like, where did Carrie go? He disappeared for a minute too.
Yes.
And it was like when you came back, right? I was like, oh, thank God. Because it's true, we're so delicate. We're so delicate. And as we travel along this journey, so many things happen to us in the course of this journey, right? That allow us to look at life differently. Year after year, day after day, meetings after meeting, working step work. We have these moments, these white light experiences or these spiritual awakenings that make it so difficult for us to deny our true nature and what we were here to do. So it wasn't meant to be last year. It was meant to be this year. And you have such a beautiful, beautiful message of hope. I love so much of what you talk about here. I remember working my fifth step, right? And I remember leaving myself out, right? I remember there's another person that you have a resentment towards and you haven't listed them. And I've got everybody here.
Right.
And he's like, you didn't put yourself in there.
Yeah, because you totally don't even think about that. I mean, you're like,
what? You don't think about yourself at all. Right? As much as you do, I may not be much, but I'm going to think about, right? There's that moment where it's like that constant need, right? That drama that we seek, that neediness that we need. But when it comes to the real stuff, when it comes to loving ourselves, when it comes to self-acceptance, when it comes to forgiving ourselves, we're not even on the list.
Right. Well, it's like everything's like, who did what to me? Person did this person did that. They're
external.
like, write it all out. You're writing it all out, and you're not thinking about yourself. You're like, who did what to me? And we're so selfish. That we don't even think that we have to think about us. We have to forgive ourselves, because if not, that guilt. Oh my God, that guilt's terrible, and it'll eat at you. Yes. And if you don't forgive yourself, then I do that with my sponsees. I have to tell them all the time when they, whenever I call or whatever, I have them say, I'm worthy. You're worthy. It's like this interview. I think that's one reason why I chickened out. I think it was because, I hear all your people on your podcast and I just adore everybody on there. And I didn't feel like I was worthy. And I realized today I am worthy. I'm worthy to share my message. I'm worthy today.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. And every time somebody has the courage to say that, to say I'm worthy, to say I love myself, gosh, it's for some people it's practically impossible to say.
It is. It's very hard.
I love myself today, and I do things that are loving. Like the way that I express myself, the way that I live my life is loving. And it's so true too. Think about the evolution. You said in the last year that you and your husband, that the relationship has changed because you have changed. So again, there was that shift, right? Based on your spiritual condition, based on the program that you're currently working. We evolve. This is, I'm in the same place you are. You're in the same place. You're 5 years in, and I remember being 5 years in. I'm 14 years in, but I haven't stopped evolving and changing. Right? Yeah. And so if your partner isn't evolving and changing as well, you instantly start to recognize that there's something wrong, right? Or maybe it's not, maybe I'm using the wrong word. I don't like to use negative connotations, but something's different. Something's changed, right? I'm recognizing something and I'm trying to put my finger on it. But the reality is that I'm evolving. I'm reworking my steps. I'm doing things in my life that are constantly forcing me to ask myself better questions, right? And to seek, more guidance in my life. And if the person I'm with is not doing the same thing, it causes that rift. It causes that separation. And is he opposed to, again, this is off the books. But I don't want to be in a situation where I'm giving suggestions. But I'm curious as to maybe having a conversation, right, where it's like, hey, I've noticed some things, right, and I had some ideas, and I was thinking about, maybe we should try this, or maybe we should die. I don't know. I don't know the dynamics of your marriage or that kind of a thing.
Well, what's really neat is that I went on a little mini weekend with some of the ladies in the program, and talked to them about some of the issues that I was having. His negative. He's always complaining and blah blah blah. And then after talking to them, they're like, what about him? They turned it around almost where they were defending him. Mm-hmm. And I was so into me. My ladies in AA that know me, they brought it to my attention, some of the things that I didn't think about and how I was kind of being selfish about certain things. And so we sat down and we talked. We were having a lot of issues with our son in the morning, getting ready for school. He was diagnosed with ODD, which is I don't even know what it is, but it's pretty much what it is. The different symptoms of it or whatever is that we didn't parentally discipline him. Right. In other words, it's my fault and he's a brat. No, I'm just kidding. But really it is. That's what I told the school teacher. I was like, really, that's what it is. And I think that's because of our, a lot of our issues is with our parenting because, when I was, I'm still an addict and an alcoholic. So I still have those don't want to deal with stuff, I don't want to deal with it, or push it down, block it, all that kind of stuff. And so sometimes I'll do that with him and there's things I have to do. Instead of just giving him what he wants, I have to discipline him. I have to do stuff that parents do. And so we talked about it. We have to both be on the same page. And that's something that I never could do before. I mean, I never could just sit there and talk to him about something, what's bothering me or whatever. And, he'll change for 2 weeks, but, he doesn't have a program. He doesn't get to be reminded every day like I do with recovery. Every day I have to say, Kari, you're an alcoholic and you're a drug addict. Okay. Kari, you're a con artist. Kari, you're a liar. You're a cheat. You're a thief. Today you can change that because I'm still that person, even without drugs and alcohol. So, but he doesn't get reminded. So I have to just kindly remind him every once in a while. We have to have a little sit down talk and let him know what's bothering me. Another thing is telling him that, one of my bad habits, especially when I used, was pushing things down, and I can't push things down. And if something's bothering me, I have to let you know about it. So there's a communication there now, which that's just recently happened. But like I said, the marriage is one day at a time too,
Yes. And I'm certainly glad I asked that question then, because it does shed a new light on that dynamic because, none of us went to school to be parents. None of us went to school to be husbands or wives. These are things that we've had to learn on our own. And up until recently, right, where is that opportunity to get advice, to ask for help, to reach out, right? And now, because of the program and because of having a sponsor and having women that you trust, not only can you share about what's going on, but they can shed some light on some things that you haven't looked at. And it completely changes your outlook, and then it changes the dynamic of your relationship because you go into it with a different perspective. You go into it with love. You go into it with communication, right? And that's what every good relationship is built on. It's communication. The foundation of every solid relationship is built on quality communication, loving communication. And you only learn that from learning to love ourselves. It all comes full circle at some point.
Mm-hmm. It's also, not just sitting there complaining about it. It's just like with recovery, you have to take action. You have to always be trying to do something for your recovery. You can't, it's one of the ladies always says, it's either one step toward a drink or one step away from a drink. You can't be right there, in that middle. You have to be walking away And so you have to do that with life stuff too, just like with my son. I have to take action. I have to find out if there's a therapist. I have to, talk to the teachers at school. But all that shit I would have never done if I was still using.
Yes.
I wouldn't even probably have him. He would be, he would have been taken away from me. But I have to actually take action. And the program has taught me that. I have learned that I can't just sit there and say, it's like when you go in a meeting and people are like, they say something really cool and really great. And you're like, oh, that's like, okay, listening to your podcast. Somebody's talking about doing yoga or meditation. I'm like, oh, that sounds so good. I'm going to do it. Well, unless I take action, it ain't going to happen. It might sound good in my head, but I have to actually do it. And and that's where, I mean, like with my husband, I mean, and with my son, I have to, just like with my program, I have to be doing something.
I love it. I love it. It's beautiful. I love your program. I love what you're doing. I love the direction you're going. I love your participation in the group. It's such an example of the gifts that we get by surrendering, by letting go of all these preconceived ideas about what recovery is or what recovery isn't. I love your story about being in there with 80-year-old guys and going, what has happened to my life?
I know.
And then walking out, right, a completely different person with a different outlook, just going, wow, what an incredible group of individuals, of human beings that have so much experience, so much knowledge, so much compassion, so much love, right? I want to get behind this. This is what my life is all about today. And without fulfillment, without purpose, you will get lost out there. You will get lost, and you will find yourself trying to do what we've always done for so many years, is to self-medicate. To self-medicate and disconnect from this dissatisfied and miserable existence that we have because we've lost our way. And it's incredible to think that that's it. We've lost our way. We've lost our focus, our north, like what we're here intended to do. Drugs and alcohol completely make it very clear that if we don't do something in our lives that really, really, really highlights our gifts and talents, then we're going to die a miserable death.
Exactly.
Oh,
that's right.
Powerful.
It's
powerful.
Like, I see that about sponsees, sponsors a lot on the Facebook page. And that is, I think it's so scary to walk into a meeting, but once you get there, I mean, it is amazing because you're with people that think and act and do things just like you. And it's like, where have y'all been all my life?
Yes.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
We get it when we get it.
Amen, brother.
All right. So, Kari, we're going to start closing up. All right. And you know how I like to close up? It's for the newcomer.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you 5 questions about your early recovery, and I want you to respond with insightful answers you can share with our newcomers. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Beautiful. So first, what was keeping you from getting clean or staying clean when you first got introduced to recovery?
To be honest, I never knew anything about recovery. I never knew what AA was. I had no knowledge of the fact that I had a disease. And I think that once I learned that my brain is different than a normal person, it processes things different, and that there was a name for it, and it was a disease, and it didn't have a cure. I think that was when it was like, okay, now I know what's wrong. Now how can I fix it?
I love it. So the number 2, at what point did you have a spiritual awakening, that aha moment in recovery when you accepted that you were powerless over drugs and alcohol, but for the first time had developed the hope that you could recover?
Oh, it was definitely that experience in that class and treatment, with the religion and spirituality, just not having a clue that there was a difference between, going to church and the things that you're taught in Vacation Bible School, all that kind of stuff growing up, and spirituality. Spirituality is that actual connection, like you and God, or you and your higher power talking together. that like your moment with him, not what somebody else says that you're supposed to be doing or behaving how you're supposed to be acting. And so that moment and sitting in that chair in treatment center, I'm telling you, it was unbelievable. My heart, I'm telling you, it was like E.T., where his heart, starts glowing, and
yes.
that was it. I was E.T. for that moment, and it's still glowing.
Oh man, that's such a wonderful story, and I do remember something very similar to that. I felt like this almost like this blanket, this warm blanket was kind of put around me, like somebody who's just gone through a flood and is freezing and is sitting on the curb or something, and somebody puts a blanket around you. I remember in that moment of utter desperation, so lost, and asking for help and reaching out to a power greater than myself, and feeling that feeling, right? Because there's so many people that are listening right now to this interview and just can't connect with that. Right? They haven't had that kind of an experience where they actually felt an energy, right? They actually felt their temperature increase or their chest expand, right? And really connected on that deeper level. But it's there for all of us. You can access it whenever you want. So I love the way you tell that story. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So number 3. Do you have a favorite book that you would recommend to a newcomer that you read in early recovery?
Okay. I do not read. I do not read. I don't like to read. I hate it. I knew this question was coming, and I was like, okay, I can make up something, but that just would not be cool.
Favorite movie?
The only thing I've read is the first 165 pages of the AA Big Book. I can say I've read that several times. Lots of times, over and over. I even go to a big book study where we read it together. I do not read. I get in trouble with my sponsor all the time for that. I don't. I just don't. I don't have the my reading comprehensions. Like when I read something, I could totally not tell you what I read. I could read it out loud and I have no clue. So for reading, no. Can't do it. Sorry.
No. Trust me.
Not going to happen.
I am in the same. That's always been me for many, many years. Only until recently have I started to kind of take down those walls, right? Because here's what happens with me. I start reading and my brain immediately starts going in about 13 different directions, and the noise gets loud in my head. And I'll read the same paragraph 3 times and go, it's a waste of my time.
Right. Right.
And it's a practice. At some point, it's a practice of getting the noise to come down. But here's what I've found, because at least for me, I found a lot of what that noise has been in my life has been, you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you can't read. Right? And when I hear you say that, I've said that before, right? And I've stopped saying those things. Even if I'm not doing it, right? I'll shift it and I say, well, I won't read. Because then when I say that, I have to own some of that.
Right.
I have to take responsibility for that one, right? So it's just kind of a little, words have so much power, and I try to stay so far from negativity because it's crippled me for years. What I started doing was, for me to listen, like all the books that got recommended, I got an Audible account.
Right.
So that I could get the books and listen to those.
Yes, I know, and I need to do that. And I was getting ready to ask you, did my sponsor talk to you before this interview and tell you? Did my sponsor talk to you before the interview and tell you need to tell me I need to read? I'm just kidding. She's like, if you will just be still, Kari, just be still, and just read. And I'm like, oh, all right, practice not perfection, right?
Okay. Well, I'll say this. Yes, I did have a conversation with your sponsor.
Oh, she's everywhere.
And listen, forget about the reading part right now. All right.
Okay.
Focus on the I can'ts, right? Focus on the I can'ts, right? Get those
Yeah.
let's get rid of those. And like your sponsor says, find a way to get quiet and get rid of that noise in your head, and start telling yourself, right, on a daily basis, like we talked about earlier, I am statements, right? I am powerful, I'm successful, I'm confident, I am rich, right? I read, whatever it is, at some point, and don't read, but say that for a year, right? Say that for a year, and I'm studying to be a coach, so this is why when I hear that stuff, this is the stuff that they teach us, right? It's like when somebody says I can't, it really means I won't,
Right.
And when something's in your way, in many cases, or where you're stuck somewhere or you can't make a decision, it's typically because when you go to make a decision, or you go to read something, or you go to learn something, or somebody's trying to give you some new information, the noise in your head starts, and you start to wander into 13 different directions, right? And you have a hard time focusing. It's because we've got these little voices that have been getting louder and louder and louder through the years. And the way to combat that is to say, I can, I am, I will, I do.
Yes, sir.
This turned into a little mini coaching session.
Okay. I'm like you're my sponsor. I feel like I'm talking to my sponsor. It's awesome.
Did you listen to the Sean Croxton episode?
No, I haven't yet.
Listen to that one. All right.
Okay.
That's what we.
Oh yeah, so I read the little. I read what it was about. Yeah, I'm going to listen to that probably tomorrow.
It's this is where we go into, right? And like I said, we're constantly. This is year 14 for me. It's time for me to evolve and go to the next level, right?
Right.
And so it's simply where I'm at. But when I was 5 years clean, I hadn't even gotten my first Audible account yet.
Right.
Yeah, I was still there. I don't read. I had a bunch of books because they look cool, so I had them on my shelves, right?
Yeah.
I'm right there with you, Kari. Trust me, I have been in your shoes.
And it's like, when you were saying that, it reminded me, the ladies in the group, they get mad at me because I'll come in with like a necklace on or something, and they'll go, God, that's so pretty. And I'll be like, look at it. And I'll be like, oh, this is it's just something tacky. It's not nothing. They're like, why can't you take a compliment?
Yes.
So that's another thing I'm working on now. It's like taking a compliment from people. Like when somebody tells me something, say thank you,
Yes.
So yeah, yes.
I will refer to the other episode too, which is Unworthy, the mini episode. Yes. Did you listen to that one?
Yes.
Okay. You gotta say thank you and yes.
Yes.
I love it. All right. So Kari, tell us, what is the best suggestion you have ever received?
The best suggestion, I think, was from my sponsor when I first got sober and started going to meetings. There was like, there could be cliques. I mean, we're people and different things going on. And when you go to meetings, you realize there's some people that are there, for recovery and some that aren't. And you kind of have to figure that out. And you do figure it out. But my sponsor told me to stick with the winners. I stay with the ladies in the program that are going to the meetings, that are working steps, that have sponsors, that are doing things in recovery, that aren't there for other reasons. I don't get caught up in the drama. But yeah, definitely stick with when and even if you're not and if you don't go to meetings or whatever, just try to find somebody that's in recovery. Be around people in recovery that have something that you want.
I love it. Beautiful suggestion. All right. So number 5, if you could give a newcomer only one suggestion, what would that be?
Well, we've talked about that. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for your past. It's going to take time, but just like we've said, if you can't love yourself, and you don't feel like that you're worth it, it's going to be hard. You have to, I think for me, breaking it down as this is a disease. And when I was out there using and drinking and stuff, that wasn't really me. That was my disease. I was like I said, a zombie. And those things I would have never done today. I never would have broken to my mother-in-law's house. I never would have done any of that. That was not me, but I don't want to forget it. But I have to still forgive myself sometimes when I do stupid shit. I have to forgive myself because if I can't, then I'm just going to feel guilty. And I think guilt will eat you. It will really, it will eat you. So in order for me to, stay whole and, stay at that, keep my peace and serenity, I have to forgive myself because see, I know my higher power's already forgiven me. And if he can forgive me, I can forgive myself.
HP, baby.
That's right. HP all the way.
And with that, we're going to close. All right,
awesome.
Folks. Kari, thank you so much again for joining us.
You're welcome. Oh, I had a great time.
Oh, you did fantastic. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
All right, folks. We've now reached the end of our show. Thanks for joining us. And as we say here in Costa Rica, pura vida.
Pura vida.
Thank you for joining us on the SHAIR Recovery Podcast. To check out the show notes page on this interview or to thank our guests for sharing their story, go to www.theshairpodcast.com. While you're on the website, don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter to stay up to date on the latest news, podcasts, and interviews. Want to be one of our guests and share your story? Then go to our website and click on the Share Your Story button. We share our inspiring recovery stories every Tuesday, so subscribe to our show on iTunes or Stitcher Radio to get your free weekly download. We'll see you then. The opinions shared on this show reflect those of the individual speaker and not of any 12-Step Fellowship as a whole. And though we discuss 12-Step recovery and the impact it had in our lives, we do not promote or endorse any 12-Step Anonymous program.